What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Road Signs, and this one is not. Last one was a fantasy booking thing. This is going to be a bit random. I'm not going to lie. The first step on the road to WrestleMania is really the Royal Rumble, but we've got a lot of first steps have happened in the first week of 2012. I know a lot of people feel let down by the first Raw of 2012, the first SmackDown of 2012, respectively, because they didn't completely blow us out of the water. But really, they've set the tone for a lot of things and for a lot of potential stories leading up to WrestleMania, which is, again, a good 3 months away. So I've got a few here. There's probably more. You guys are probably focusing on maybe much different stuff. If you guys think I should be focusing on something else, toss me a topic or a suggestion down in the box, and maybe I'll try to answer it in the next Road Signs video. That being said, Name Your Star and Q&A are both starting to get some responses on the moderator of this channel. If you want to name your star, or if you have a question for Q&A, go to the main page of this channel, leave your Q&A questions and your Name Your Star suggestions in the mod. For those of you watching this on Facebook, and I know I get a lot of feedback there, I urge you to go check out the actual channel page and drop your suggestions and questions, etc. in the mod. For those of you that already have, thank you, your turn will come. Now, leading into 2012, the biggest story, one of the biggest stories, was the injury of Randy Orton, and while some people celebrated that more than others, Preston, you're still a dick, it left us with, where's Barrett going? Where is Barrett going with this big rise that he's on, the Barrett barrage, etc.? Because whether you want to admit it or not, Randy Orton stepping down into the mid-card was the biggest thing helping the Barrett barrage. Now, we got that answer tonight in SmackDown, when the one to step up was Sheamus. And, if you read the dirt sheets, Sheamus has taken Randy Orton's place in most of the house show, street fight type things that were scheduled there. Sheamus and Wade Barrett, they're interesting because I find some of the stories they're in intriguing. Sheamus, when he was having his brief feud with Christian there, I found intriguing. Barrett and Orton was becoming a great feud, but neither one of these guys on their own are at the peak of my interest list. So the fact that I feel like I'm more interested than I should be in the potential feud between these guys, it's a curious thing. It's a marvel of WWE promotion ability for sure. If done properly, I think Sheamus and Barrett is a rivalry that could last right through the Royal Rumble, right through to WrestleMania. Like, they have a little scuffle at the Rumble, like they've already alluded to tonight. They cross paths as two of the 6 guys in the Elimination Chamber in February, and then it finally comes to a head and they have a match at Royal Rumble. Now, do I enjoy that a little bit because it was part of my fantasy booking? Yes, obviously. But I also enjoy that because if this does go to Mania, it's going to be a street fight. And if these guys in a street, even though I don't particularly like either one of them, these 2 guys in a street fight will give us a great showing if they are given the time and the freedom and the shackles off to do so. But we'll have to wait, because apparently Jinder Mahal is thrown in this mix too, and Jinder Mahal's just fucking useless. Now, the big thing this week, obviously, to me, you, and everybody else, whether you liked it or whether you didn't, was the return of Chris Jericho. Now, people are torn on how he came back, and, how he pandered to the crowd and then didn't say anything, and then left, and then pissed off the crowd, and whatever. I hope this means he's coming in as a heel, because heel Jericho is amazing. We don't have any strong heels. We have an entire large collection of cookie cutter cowardly heels in WWE right now, and the only big exception to that is Mark Henry, who's also nursing an injury. So we've got Miz, we've got Swagger, we've got guys like that, and I love the Miz. You guys know that, he's one of my fave 5, but they're all cookie cutter, aren't they? Jericho knew how to not be cookie. Jericho could be the cowardly heel, could be the strong heel, could be the badass rock star type guy, or the guy in a suit looking down on everybody, and take all these variations of heel and either combine them or select from them at will, it seems. And Jericho, as we saw on Monday night, can at a moment's notice, have the crowd eating out of the palm of his hand, whether he's good or bad. I really, really hope he's a heel. He's really, really good at it, and the WWE needs it. Now, $10 will get you 100 that he's going for Punk at Mania. That is the match everybody wants to see, including me. The promos... Give these two guys a working microphone and step back. That's all I'm going to say about that. The promos leading up to them fighting at Mania are going to be fucking epic. Now, if they don't just have a you know, sort of generic building feud to Mania, there are a couple of other things they could do. Now, Jericho's been silent, you know, he was silent when he made his comeback. He was silent when WWE.com tried to interview him, and WWE.com put up their failed attempt to interview him, which I thought was interesting. So they're really trying to push his lack of comment. Now, if he goes lack of comment as to what he's doing up until the Rumble, and becomes a surprise entrant in the Rumble, wins the Rumble, takes that, adds it to his already existing ego, and then steamrolls into WrestleMania against Punk, that could be fucking epic. But even that is slightly predictable. What I would like to see is my dream match for WrestleMania happen, and that's to have the Ziggler and Punk rivalry continue until Mania. Now you're saying, where does that leave Jericho? Well, rumor has it, or the loud mouths on the dirt sheet have it, that Money in the Bank is coming back to WrestleMania this year now. I don't know if it's true or not, but storyline would have you believe that who created Money in the Bank? That would be Chris Jericho. Now, to have Chris Jericho come back and assume a spot, walk in and say, I don't even need a qualifier match, I created this match, I'm going to be in it, walk into WrestleMania, into the Money in the Bank, win Money in the Bank, and then watch CM Punk defeat Dolph Ziggler at WrestleMania, because I think that's how it's going to go down if it happens, and then steal the belt from Punk at the end, would be a great heel, purely sadistically heel thing for Chris Jericho to do, to have CM Punk have his final big victory moment at WrestleMania and then take it away from him just like that. Now you're saying to me, well, that's a pretty, you know, hastily booked ending to WrestleMania. Now, I'm a big fan of The Rock, but The Rock basically fucked up the end of WrestleMania last year, so that if that doesn't prove that anything can happen, it could happen. I'm not saying it will. I would love to see Jericho in Money in the Bank. I would love to see Jericho in the Rumble. I'm just happy Jericho's back. Quite frankly, Jericho mark right here. I mark for the possibility of Jericho and Punk, let alone the fact that it's probably going to happen. But anyways, there's a lot of things they can do with Jericho because he's that flexible. To have him in the Rumble, to have him in the Elimination Chamber would be good too. To have him go up against Punk and maybe not necessarily get to the promised land with that and get taken out by Punk and then try to get his revenge at WrestleMania. There's a lot, starting right from the second day of January, leaves you a lot of wiggle room between there and WrestleMania as far as storyline goes. And Jericho is one of those guys that will fit that. Not to say that Punk won't do his share. Punk will definitely do his share. And that's why I like to see Punk against Jericho. There's not a whole lot of other people that it would really work against. Now, would I like to see Jericho go up against Cena and shut Cena up for a while? Yeah, but it's not. Jericho can do better than that. Oh yes. Would I love to see Jericho Orton? Yeah, probably. But that would imply that Jericho would go to SmackDown, and I don't think Jericho's going to leave the flagship show. If he stayed face, I would love to see him face The Miz. I would love to see him go up against Ziggler, maybe Alberto Del Rio. But, like I say, I really don't want him to be face, so let's not even travel down that route. Now, the next thing I am going to talk about is we do have some things already set for the Royal Rumble. The one thing we have set for Royal Rumble is Ziggler versus Punk, again, because of the clusterfuck on Raw. Ziggler versus Punk is an amazing match, and WWE needs to realize that they don't need to overbook Ziggler versus Punk. They don't need to have some clusterfuck ending. They don't need to have a special referee or a gimmick or whatever. You just need to let these guys go, and we're not really seeing that just yet, which is why I'm assuming that their match at Royal Rumble is going to be less than stellar. It's going to be very, very lackluster, purely for the fact that they've thrown in Laurinaitis as the special referee, you know, kind of to fuck it up. You don't need it. Other matches that you're kind of iffy about seeing, yeah, you throw in a special referee because people will get more interested. It's like, no, Ziggler and Punk are probably the two best things WWE has going right now. You don't need anything else in there to fuck it up. Couple things that bug me about this match. A, we already saw it on Raw, and it kind of went into the shitter with no real conclusion. B, Ziggler and Punk, it's too early for them to fight again. Like I say, legitimately, and I say this because I believe it in my heart, this match deserves to happen at WrestleMania. With or without the special referee bullshit, this match deserves to happen at WrestleMania. The Laurinaitis thing is shit, and historically, anyway, they could always come back and change it, but historically, the people involved in the title matches at Royal Rumble aren't in the Royal Rumble. So, at least one of these guys is not going to be in the Rumble, and at least one of these guys is not going to make it to Mania. Either Ziggler's going to win the title and go up against whatever other random-ass new #1 contender, or Punk's going to win, and Ziggler's not going to have another chance to be that #1 contender. So there's a lot of things wrong with this match happening too soon. Not that I don't think these guys can go, and I don't think it'll be a great match, and I'm not looking forward to it, you know, hoping against hope that despite Laurinaitis that it still will be a great match, but it's happening way too soon, in my opinion. Now, been discussing with various people, you know, different theories, you know, people, all the fans in the WWE have a way of looking at things. This is how it should be, you know, don't tweak with the way things go, don't change history, don't change anything. People freaked out last year because it went to 40 men in the Royal Rumble. Now people are freaking out again because it's gone back down to 30. Well, I have a little theory about the Royal Rumble that's probably going to take people that are going to freak out about those little tiny things, probably stand right on their head. Now, the Royal Rumble, in its theory, is supposed to set the basis, set the groundwork for WrestleMania. But really all the Royal Rumble does is set one match. The supposed main event, except last year. Now, what I propose to you is this. The last 4 people in the Rumble get a payday, so to speak. Get rewarded, get acknowledged. Now, how I would do this, keep it how it is right now. The winner of the Royal Rumble gets to choose what world title they go after at WrestleMania. Leave that the way it is. Now, as far as the other 3 for WrestleMania, the last person out goes for whatever title the first person didn't choose. So say the first person, the winner of the Royal Rumble chooses to go after the World Heavyweight title. Therefore, the second person in line gets his shot at the WWE title. Now, the third person, or the second last person out, would get to choose what mid-card title he wants to go after, say the US or the Intercontinental. Say he chooses the US, and the third last person out would get to choose whatever mid-card title is left over. So if the first person chose the US, that person would, by default, get a shot at the Intercontinental Champion. That way, you could live up to the name, live up to the idea that the Royal Rumble sets the stage for WrestleMania, because there's all your championships at WrestleMania. It would also, and this is one of my biggest peeves about the WrestleMania, especially recently, it would make sure that all the titles were defended at WrestleMania. Yes, it would. Because there's been, like, you know, 3-on-3, 4-on-4 matches where, like, a US champ's been on one side and an IC champ's been on the other side. Or we've had Money in the Bank matches in the past where, you know, one of the tag team champs happens to be in the match, or the IC champ happens to be in the match, or whatever. Now, which is awesome, because obviously if they're a champ, they're contributing something to the WWE, and they're going to contribute something to that match, but it's not giving any recognition to the titles, and it's one of the biggest things that I think has contributed to the lack of meaning behind any of the titles, let alone the fact that we have too many. So that's my idea. That's how I would tweak the Royal Rumble. Now, as far as, you know, purely initial people that are going to win the Rumble, I've got 5. I got 5 people that I think could win the Rumble. Now, if I got my way, it would be one of 2, or one of 3, but I'll tell you the first 2. First 2 would be Ziggler or Rhodes, and now everybody can say without hesitation that those 2 guys brought a lot of prestige and a lot of meaning back to the respective mid-card titles that they either still hold or did hold up until recently. Both of these guys are on a rocket to their respective World Heavyweight Championships eventually. One of them winning the Rumble and, say, the other one winning at Money in the Bank or whatever would set all of that in motion, wouldn't it? Either one of these guys win the Rumble, no problem. Like I say, Sheamus and Barrett are my next 2. I don't have a particular liking for either of these guys, but I can't deny what they've contributed to the WWE since they've come in and how far they've come since they come in. As far as rising stars and all those type of cliches, Sheamus and Barrett are right there, whether I like it or not. So if Sheamus or Wade Barrett win the Royal Rumble, I will swallow my pride and I will be happy for whoever wins. Now, the last one, and here's where I become incredibly unpopular with about 3/4 of the YWC. The last one is Randy Orton, who is rumored to make a surprise reappearance at the Royal Rumble. Now, I do agree. The Royal Rumble should be a launching pad for a new star that has not yet seen the main event scene. But there are other sentimental reasons that I have personally for hoping that this is true and hoping that Randy Orton comes back and wins. First of all, I'm a Randy Orton mark. You guys know this. He's one of my fave 5. Second of all, you know, if he's doing this injury, or whether it's real, whether it's kayfabe, whether it's whatever, he's going to be out between whenever he was taken out by Barrett and the Rumble again. So he's sacrificed like a month of television time, which, you know, in the wrestling world could kill you, realistically speaking, because somebody will come up and snack your spot. Thirdly, he's spent most of this year, since he's dropped the World Heavyweight Championship, helping in the mid-card, build up the mid-card guys to the status that some of them are at right now. So, as a thank you, as an acknowledgement of that, throwing him the Royal Rumble win and giving him a nice solid spot at WrestleMania would be a really nice receipt for him, wouldn't it? And lastly, and I don't care if I sound vindictive when I say this, it would be a big fuck you to all the little pricks out there, and you know who you are, that celebrated the idea of him being injured, because you guys are fucking retarded. Moving on. Getting off of that. The last thing I will say is I want to bring up the potential Daniel Bryan turn that we saw on SmackDown tonight. Now, it's not a complete heel turn. He was just kind of being a wiener and won his match rather cheaply. The idea of a Daniel Bryan turn intrigues me, because he is seen as an underdog even though he's the champion. Having an underdog as a heel, it doesn't really... Because an underdog is somebody you want to feel bad for, and usually it doesn't make much sense for you to feel bad for a heel. So I'm intrigued as to where they could go with a Daniel Bryan heel turn. But to say in the same breath, a year ago I would have said, you know, the idea of turning CM Punk face is intriguing, and I don't quite know how it would work. So, shows what I know. The problem I have with this is, with all due respect to Mark Henry and the Big Show, he turned heel on the Big Show, which means we're going to see more of the Big Show, and he has unfinished business with Mark Henry, and which means we're definitely going to see more of Mark Henry. Now, I don't know about any of you guys out there. Yes, I will admit Mark Henry has improved leaps and bounds over this year, and his title run was not nearly as disastrous as I thought it would be. But I've seen enough of the Big Show for a while to last me for a long while. The same thing goes for Mark Henry. I want Daniel Bryan to stop slaying dragons and start having wrestling matches. To come down from that David and Goliath underdog, you know, last guy picked for the team type of persona, and just get into a decent man-to-man rivalry. I would love to see him hold the title when Cody Rhodes steps up. Those two would be great. When Christian, you know, petitions and gets his one more match, I would love to see that be against Daniel Bryan, because Daniel Bryan would still make Christian look good. He would make Christian look good enough that when he goes over Christian, that it would help them both. Does that make sense? I would love to see him go over to Raw with a big vendetta and say, you know, this is the only world title belt that matters, and have him finally have a title versus title match with CM Punk, which I'm pretty sure... I'm not a fan of ROH. I don't really watch ROH, but I do know that a lot of ROH fans want to see that match. And me, just seeing Bryan and Punk in the little bit that they've been able to do in WWE, I want to see it. I want to see... Yeah, I want to see him going man-to-man with people and not, you know, underdog to giant, because that story gets old after a while. And I'm sorry, the people that lost interest in guys like Rey Mysterio... Although I have a lot of respect for Rey Mysterio, is because we got sick of those storylines. He's constantly being the underdog, constantly being doubted on, constantly, you know, smallest dog in the fight. And it's like, how much of an underdog could he be? He's been a multiple-time champion, and he's been champion everywhere, and he's main evented this many pay-per-views and whatever. And we know when this little guy goes up against this bad guy that the little guy's going to win because it's a nice feel-good story. But you get tired of that unrealistic approach after a while. I want Daniel Bryan to face somebody that he can stand face-to-face with and be eye-to-eye with. Does that make sense? I really, at this point, there's nothing else jumping off the page at me that could last all the way to Mania. The Cody Rhodes versus Goldust versus Booker T storyline, I really don't know how that's going to hold legs until WrestleMania. It's enjoyable in the meantime, and it could last until the Royal Rumble. I don't see it lasting to Mania, so I'm not gonna dwell on that too much unless it seems like it will, which by that point I think I'll be sick of. Right now it's interesting, you know, a brother-brother storyline is always epic, but it's epic in short bursts. The thing with Booker T, yes, we've all seen Booker T have his traumatic comeback and show us that he can still do what he does in the ring, and that's great for him. I like Booker T. I like Cody Rhodes, but it's time for Cody Rhodes to step up, not step back into a time capsule. I think that's all I have to say for now, guys. This is the first week leading up into WrestleMania, so we don't have a whole bunch to talk about just yet. Just a couple things that, like I say, were jumping off the page for me. Thought I'd get them off my chest on a video, talk to you guys, because I know you guys love to hear from me. Now, before I go, I'm going to send a quick shout out to my friend Angela. Check out her YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/The Orton Storm. The Orton Storm, all one word. Check her out on YouTube. She just started up her channel again. I don't know how much content is on there so far, but it should be fun. She's kind of awesome, so go check her out. As for me, you know, put your Q&A stuff in the mod, put your Name Your Star stuff in the mod. Other than that, I'm Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you guys later. I'm tagging out. Bye.
Get up, come on.